you assemble, everybody? Today we'll be reading The Ugly Vegetables.
This story was written by Grace Lynn. Here we go. For my mom and her ugly gardens.
A note to the reader. You may find some unfamiliar words in this story. Pronounce them as you guess as they sound from the way they are spelled, or turn the last page of the book for help.
Oh, so if there are some unusual words, we're going to do our best.
To
And then
pronounce
we'll
them.
look at the very end and maybe do a better job with it.
Okay? In the spring, I helped my mother start our garden. We used tall shovels to turn the grass upside down, and I saw pink worms wiggle around. It was hard work. When we stopped to rest, we saw that the neighbors were staring at our garden, too.
They were starting their gardens. Look.
Oh!
Yeah.
All right, next. Your turn.
Hello, Irma, my mother called to Mrs. Coumarin. Mrs. Coumarin was digging too, but she was using a smaller shovel, one that just fit in her hand. Hey, Mommy, I asked, why are we using such big shovels? Mrs. Coumarin has a small one. Because our garden needs more digging, she said.
I helped my mother plant the seeds, and we dragged a hose to the garden. Hi, Linda. Hi, Mickey. I called to the Fitzgeralds. They were sprinkling water on their garden with green watering cans. Mommy, I asked, why are we using a hose? Linda and Mickey are using watering cans. Because our garden needs more water, she said.
So their garden needs more digging, and it needs more water. I wonder if their garden is different. Uh-oh, I'm gonna scoot myself over here. Then my mother drew funny pictures on pieces of paper and stuck them into the garden. Hello, Roseanne, my mother called across the street to Mrs. Angel Howe. Mommy, I asked, why are we sticking these papers in our garden? Mrs. Angel Howe just uses the seed packages in her garden. Because our garden is going to grow Chinese vegetables, she told me. These are the names of the vegetables in Chinese, so I can tell which plants are where I'm growing them.
My turn. One day, I saw our garden growing. Little green stems that looked like grass had popped out of the ground. Our garden's growing!
Woo!
I yelled. Our garden's growing! I rushed over to the neighbor's garden to see if theirs had grown. The plants looked like little leaves. Mommy, I asked, why do our plants look like grass? The neighbor's plants look different. Well, that's because they're growing flowers, she said.
Why can't we grow flowers? I asked.
These are peppermint flowers, she said.
Soon all the neighbors' gardens were blooming. Up and down the street grew a rainbow of flowers. The wind always smelled sweet. The butterflies and bees were flying everywhere. Everyone's garden was beautiful. Except for ours.
Oh. Our garden was dark green and ugly. Why didn't we grow flowers? I asked again. These are peppermint flowers, Mommy said again. I looked, but I only saw black, purple, green vines, fuzzy, wrinkled leaves, and prickly stems, and a few yellow flowers. I don't think so, I said.
You wait and see. So look at the difference. So here's a flower garden. Beautiful.
And here's a vegetable garden. Not so beautiful.
Not as beautiful. But I think in the end, this little girl's going to be pretty happy.
Before long, our vegetables grew. Some were big and lumpy, and some were thin and green, covered with bumps. Some were just plain, icky yellow. They were ugly vegetables.
Sometimes I would go over to the neighbors and I would look at their pretty gardens. They would show the poppies and peonies and petunias to me, and I would feel sad that our garden wasn't as nice.
One day, my mother and I picked the vegetables from the garden. We filled a whole wheelbarrow full of them. We wheeled them to the kitchen. My mother washed them and took a big knife and started to chop them.
"Ay-yow!" she said as she cut them. She had to use all her muscles. The vegetables were hard and tough.
This is an exohagula, Mommy said, handing me a bumpy, curled vegetable. She pointed at the other vegetables. This is a zankei. That's a todehao.
Now, this was the page the author was talking about. Those words that we don't recognize on the page are written in Chinese. So we did our best, but we'll spend a little bit of time with them at the end.
Yes.
Look at the different vegetables.
Wow.
I went outside to play. While I was playing catch with Mickey, a magical aroma filled the air. I saw the neighbors standing on their porches with their eyes closed, just smelling the sky. They took deep breaths of the air like they were trying to eat the smell.
Ooh. The wind carried it up and down the street. Even the bees and the butterflies seemed to smell the scent in the breeze. I smelled it too, and it made me hungry. It was coming from my house.
Everybody on the street could smell it, and they were all wishing they had some soup.
When I followed the smell to my house, my mother was putting a big bowl of soup on the table. The soup was yellow, red, green, and pink.
"This is a special soup," Mommy said, and she smiled. She gave me a small bowl full of it, and I tasted it. It was so good. The flavors of the soup seemed to dance in my mouth and laugh all the way down to my stomach. I smiled.
"Do you like it?" Mommy asked me. I nodded and held out my bowl for some more. "It's made from our vegetables," she told me. But then the doorbell rang and we ran to open the door.
All of our neighbors were standing at the door, holding flowers. We noticed you were cooking," Mr. Fitzgerald laughed as he held out his flowers. "We thought you might be interested in a trade." We laughed too, and my mother gave them each their own bowl of her special soup.
My mother told them what each vegetable was and how she grew it. She gave them the soup recipe and put some soup into jars for them to take home. I ate a total of 5 bowls of soup.
Are you serious?
That's a lot of soup.
It was the best dinner ever.
All right, let's see those other words.
The next spring, when my mother was starting her garden, we planted some flowers. See? Next to the Chinese vegetables. And Mrs. Coomran, the Fitzgeralds, and the Angel House planted some Chinese vegetables next to their flowers. Soon you go for it.
Soon the whole neighborhood was growing Chinese vegetables in their gardens, up and down the street. Little green plants poked out of the ground. Some looked like leaves and some looked like grass, and when the flowers started blooming, you could smell the soup in the air.
Oh, here are those words.
Oh, there they are. I thought that.
So if you say, zai, right?
Yeah.
That is the symbol that emphasizes the word that refers to vegetable. Interesting. This is keng xin zai, shen zai, zhou zai, teng hao, shou huang gao, si gao, ku gao, and fu lu fu. That's my favorite. Fu lu fu. All right, and here's the recipe for cooking the soup. Now, what I want everyone to do is in their seesaw activity today, what I would like you to do is sequence the pictures from our story. So you're going to put them in order from first,
next,
then,
and last. It's kind of like that one we did with the bean plant. Remember that video?
And then you can use these words at the bottom to help retell the story. Use the microphone on your page and tell me about these ugly vegetables. Thanks, everybody.
Crew up you.